the first few steps of baking. You should know how to line a baking tray or a round cake pan. There are several ways of lining cake trays or cake pans. So first, if you are having a non-stick pan like this, you can just spray or grease with butter and use it as it is without adding any baking paper. That's one way. And the other way is, if you are having an aluminium or stainless steel or any other kind of a metal that you are going to use for baking and you are very sure that it won't come out of the baking tray, there is another method of doing it. This is really an old method. So take a little bit of butter onto your fingers or even oil. I prefer butter than oil because butter is a bit hard when you apply it, and the flour sticks very nice and well. If not, it won't come out. So you have to have a kind of a deep layer of butter on the pan like this. Always use your fingers because you can always cover all the areas that there is no butter on a pan. After covering with butter, it will look like this. So take some flour and touch the pan like this to cover the whole area with butter. Make sure that you cover from top to bottom, so the butter will stick, the flour will stick onto the butter and cover the whole baking tray nice and well. So after, it will look like this. Just pat it and take the excess flour out, and this is another way of doing it. So I told you two ways. The next way, if you are covering a round cake pan like this, take a baking paper out from the baking log and just put the pan on the baking tray paper and use a pen and make the circle. You can draw the circle all over like this. So this is the base of the pan. So after, use your scissors and cut it accordingly around the line. So after, it look like this. Leave it aside. Now take another baking paper, but this has to be a bit longer, and you need to get the height of the pan. Keep the pan like this, end of the paper, the bottom of the pan, and like this, and just mark the line. You can always cut it according to the size of the pan or a bit higher. Now take the baking paper and fold it well and leave a crease. Then so it's really easy for you to cut the baking paper. I always tear it from the top, or you can cut it nicely. For showing you how to do this, I just cut only the size of the pan. So if you want this higher, you need to have extra paper here, and then take the baking paper and then mark the lines again. Just leave a crease about 1 inch. Now cut up to that level, several cuts along the crease like this. So after cutting, it will look like this. So take your baking pan and put this layer under, so it goes nice and well onto the bottom, and then take the round that you cut and put it into the middle. So it is really nice and well along a round cake pan. That is how to do a round cake pan. Now let's take a square cake pan. There are different styles of square cake pans. Some, the base you can take out, or the other ones just like this. So one way of doing the square pans, the same way that you did with flour and the butter. I like that method a lot because it comes out nice and clean without any problem, but it's really nice with baking paper too. So now let's do the square pan. When you do a square pan, you can do two different ways. The same way as we did the baking, the round baking tray, you cut a square paper and then take the baking paper up to this level and cut the crease according to the size that you wish, like 1 inch, and then put the square one on top. That's one way. The second way is just put the baking paper tray on the baking paper. This is how it is. So if you want, you can grease the baking pan so it holds the baking paper really nice and well. If not, you can just put it in, but the best way is to wet the baking paper tray or just add a bit of butter like this. So it holds the baking paper nice and really well onto the tray. To put the same baking paper like this into the square cake pan, you hold the cake pan nice and well and take the baking paper and hold it well. Then take the ends nice and then put a crease, just like pressing nice and even, so it comes nice and straight. So let's do the other corner the same way. Just take the paper, hold it nice and well, and then take the ends, just like wrapping the gifts. After, take that baking paper and put it in. So if you find the ends are too long, you can cut them out. So hold it nice and well and take that crease and make it nice and even, press into the corners nice and well. So after, you can cut the extra ends nice and keep it nice and well. So there is another way of doing it. So the other way is you put the baking tray upside down. Then you put the baking paper on top. The same way you get the creases like this. And then you can put that back again onto the baking tray. So this way you can draw the cake pan nice and well. If you want, use your pen and draw the cake pan, and then you can make the creases, or you can cut from this end. I told you two methods of doing a square cake pan, and this is the third method. So you cut the ends like this. You can do any method that is easy for you. I'm showing the basic methods of lining cake pan. So you put that in, so it comes nice and even. Can you see? It's really nice and even, but make sure that, because I took the bottom here, just press down nice and even and it's ready. So it is easy too. So I told you 3 methods of lining a square cake pan. Now if you have a cake pan like this, I will definitely use the flour and butter method, so it's really easy to do it. If not, you take the baking paper or cut the squares, ends like a triangle shape, and put it on. You can do this method for any kind of a baking tray. And if you are using a slice pan or a Lamington pan, it's a different one. So I will still take the paper to the size of the baking tray. You can use this for any other kind of a rectangular shaped pan. So put it on, butter it, and then cut the ends and shape it to the end. Or the other way, you put it on top of the cake pan, press it down, mark the ends nice and well, and then you cut the ends like this. So these are the basic methods of lining cake pans, and I think those who begin to bake We'll get a good idea out from that, and I will write about this in my blog, and you can get all the basic methods of baking and with the picture, lining a baking tray with all the pictures there. So visit culinarycorner.net. Thank you.